I'm sitting on the edge of my bed, replaying last night in my mind. It started like any other night, a simple dinner with Lila, my wife. Except, something felt off. I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but there was a distance in her gaze, a kind of fog that wasn't there before. We've been married for a decade, and while the passion might have dimmed here and there, I always thought our bond was solid, unbreakable. But recently, it's like she's in another world, lost in thoughts she's not sharing with me. And last night, I caught her staring at her phone, smiling, no, almost glowing. When she realized I was watching, she fumbled, nearly dropping it. I couldn't shake the feeling, and now that it's morning, the unease hasn't faded. In fact, it's intensified. I need to know what's going on, and I'm not the type to just sit back and wonder. So, with a steady hand, I reach for her phone on the nightstand. She's in the shower, singing softly, completely unaware. As I unlock her phone, the familiar guilt creeps in. But the message that pops up instantly turns that guilt into something else. Something dark and cold that settles in my stomach. Had a great time last night. Same time next week? The message is from someone named Nate. I don't know any Nate. My hand tightens around the phone as the reality hits. My wife has been seeing another man. I freeze, my hand gripping her phone so tightly my knuckles turn white. My mind spins, scrambling to process the words on the screen. I try to breathe slowly, but it's like the air has thickened, and every breath burns. I scroll up, finding a string of messages filled with laughter, inside jokes, and far too much familiarity. It's clear this isn't just some random fling. The sound of the shower turning off jolts me back to the present. I have seconds to decide what to do. I put the phone back exactly where I found it, slip into the kitchen, and try to steady myself, leaning against the counter. The anger simmers just beneath the surface, but I know I have to play it cool if I want to understand the full extent of her betrayal. She walks into the kitchen moments later, wrapped in a towel, her hair still damp, and gives me a quick kiss on the cheek like nothing's happened. Her casual affection twists the knife even deeper. The woman I thought I knew is right here, pretending like everything's fine while keeping a secret that could shatter us. So, she says, casually pouring herself a cup of coffee, any big plans for today? I force a smile, my voice surprisingly steady as I reply, just some work around the house. Maybe catch up on a few things. I avoid her gaze, hoping she doesn't notice the storm brewing beneath my calm exterior. She nods, completely oblivious, and sips her coffee. I study her, searching for any sign of guilt or remorse, but all I see is the same relaxed expression she's always worn. Either she's a master at hiding her emotions, or she genuinely thinks I'll never find out. As she heads out for the day, claiming she's meeting the girls, I decide it's time for me to take control of this situation. I need answers, but more importantly, I need a plan. This isn't going to be an impulsive confrontation. I'm going to make sure she feels the weight of every choice she's made. The front door closes with a soft click, and I exhale, realizing I've been holding my breath. It's time to act, but I need to be smart about this. I have no idea how long this affair has been going on or what she's told this Nate about our life. The only thing I know for sure is that I'm done being in the dark. First, I decide to check her phone records. A quick login to our cell provider's account reveals an endless log of calls and messages to a number saved as Nate. They go back months, each message and call a stab of betrayal I feel deep in my chest. I trace back through the record, my mind reeling as I piece together a rough timeline. But it's not enough. I need to see them together, need proof that will make her own up to everything. So, I call a friend of mine, Tom. Tom and I go way back, and I know I can trust him to help without asking too many questions. We both serve together, and if anyone knows how to keep a low profile, it's Tom. Hey, man, I say, trying to keep my voice steady. I need a favor. Think you could do a little recon for me? There's a pause on the other end of the line, and I can almost hear him raising an eyebrow. You sound serious, man. What's going on? I'll fill you in later, but it's about Lila. I think she's been meeting someone. Another pause. Then, he lets out a low whistle. Damn. Yeah, I'll help you out. You tell me where and when, and I'll make sure I'm there. I give him the details of where I think they might be meeting. This Nate, had dropped a hint in one of his messages about a restaurant downtown. It's a spot Lila and I used to frequent, a little Italian place with dim lighting and cozy booths. A place you might go to feel hidden, unnoticed. After hanging up with Tom, I start to feel a sense of purpose. It's a grim one, but it's better than the helplessness I felt before. Now, I have a direction, and that gives me a semblance of control. I'm going to make sure I get every detail right. Lila won't know what hit her. The next few days crawl by as I wait for Tom's confirmation. Every interaction with Lila feels like a lie, a twisted game where only she knows the rules. She's been leaving the house more often, always with a new excuse. Running errands, meeting friends, extra hours at work. But now, I know better. Every time she walks out the door, I feel the rage rising, barely held back. Finally, on Friday afternoon, Tom calls. "Got something for you," he says, his voice low and grim. "You were right. They were at that Italian place. I got a couple of photos for you. I didn't want to take too many, in case they noticed, but it's clear enough." He describes the scene. Lila sitting across from a man who looks a few years younger than me, polished and smooth, leaning in close as they talk. Tom captured a shot of them holding hands across the table, her gaze locked on his with a warmth that feels like a slap to my face. "Send them over," I manage, trying to keep my voice from cracking. Moments later, the photos appear on my phone, each one more devastating than the last. My wife, my partner of 10 years, is looking at another man like he's her whole world. I stare at the images, letting the pain wash over me. There's no hiding from it now. This isn't a misunderstanding or a fling she'll shrug off. This is something deeper, something she's willingly built at the cost of our marriage. Later that evening, when Lila comes home, I manage to mask my anger, barely. She walks in, her face glowing, her voice warm and cheerful, as if she's just had the best day of her life. The sheer audacity of it ignites something in me, but I hold it back, deciding that she doesn't get to see me fall apart. She asks about dinner, and I answer her questions, keeping my responses short. I can tell she notices my mood, but chooses not to press me on it. Perhaps she's feeling some guilt, though her cheer doesn't waver. Eventually, she excuses herself to bed, and I'm left in the silence of the living room, the weight of betrayal pressing down on me. I know what I have to do next. The plan is forming in my mind, and it's one that will leave her reeling. She's going to know exactly what it feels like to lose everything she's taken for granted. The next morning, I get up early, unable to sleep with the plans spinning in my mind. I go through our finances, jotting down every account, every asset we've built together over the years. Lila always left the finances to me, never bothering with the details. This time, her trust in me will work to my advantage. Around noon, she heads out again. "Another day with the girls," she says. I nod, suppressing the urge to confront her, knowing that the time isn't right. She kisses me goodbye, and I play along, managing a stiff smile. Once she's out of sight, I grab my keys and head out to meet Tom. I have a lot to arrange, and I need someone on the outside who understands. We meet at a small cafe out of town, a place where nobody knows us. Tom greets me with a sympathetic nod, and as soon as we sit down, I lay it all out. I want her to feel the weight of this, I say, my voice cold and steady. She's taken my trust, my love, and thrown it away like it's nothing. I'm going to make sure she sees what it's like to be the one left behind. Tom listens, nodding thoughtfully. "You want to hit her hard, but clean," he says, picking up on the calculated tone I'm aiming for. "No messy confrontations. Just consequences." Exactly. I'm not going to fight her in some shouting match. I want her to come home one day and see everything gone. And I mean everything. I tell him about my plan to pull our savings into an account under my sole name, one she can't access. I'll arrange to transfer our shared assets discreetly, bit by bit, while she's busy living her double life. Every step will be meticulous, silent. When the day comes, she'll realize she's been left with nothing. Tom chuckles, shaking his head. "Damn, man. She won't see this coming." That's the point. I pause, a bitter satisfaction settling over me. And the best part? She'll have to sit with the reality of what she's done. No more lies, no more cover-ups. We spend the next hour going over each detail. By the end of our conversation, I feel a dark satisfaction creeping in. This isn't just revenge. It's my way of reclaiming the life she tried to take from me. When she finally discovers everything, she'll have nothing to turn to but her own choices. With my plan in place, I start making small moves. Each time Lila is out, I carefully siphon portions of our joint funds into an account she can't touch. The process is slow but necessary. She can't notice anything changing until it's too late. I'm meticulous, documenting each transfer to ensure nothing is traceable or easily reversed. I know she'd never expect this from me. She thinks I'm too nice, too trusting. Days turn into weeks as I execute my strategy. Every interaction with her now feels like a calculated game. She's more distant, distracted, spending less time at home, which, honestly, suits me just fine. It gives me more space to work. There's a twisted satisfaction in knowing that every day she's with him, she's losing everything she's built with me. One evening, she comes home late, smelling faintly of cologne that's not mine. She slips off her shoes, sighing dramatically, and looks at me, almost as if I'm supposed to ask her how her day was. I keep my gaze on the TV, biting back the sarcastic question sitting on my tongue. "You okay?" she asks after a long pause. "Yeah," I reply, keeping my tone even. "Just tired from work." She nods, probably relieved I didn't press her, and heads upstairs. I watch her go, feeling both the anger and the resolve solidify within me. The woman I once would have done anything for is now nothing more than a stranger. She's already checked out of this marriage, and she doesn't even know how far I'm about to push her. The next phase of my plan begins that weekend. I decide it's time to start removing some personal items from the house. Important papers, keepsakes, valuables. All the things that have real meaning to me. She doesn't notice, too preoccupied with her busy schedule. I go through our home office while she's out, packing a few boxes of documents, photos, and even some of my family heirlooms. To her, these things would mean nothing, but to me, they're reminders of a life she's thrown away. Once everything is secure, I make arrangements with a storage company under a different name. Every piece of my plan is coming together, and soon, she'll have no idea what hit her. The clock is ticking, and I can feel the end approaching. Soon, I'll be ready to unveil the world of emptiness she's created for herself. The next morning, I wake up early, my mind already racing with what needs to be done. It's one of those rare weekends where Lila is actually home, though she's already making plans to head out shopping with a friend. The lies slip from her mouth so easily now, as if the truth has never mattered. Over breakfast, she asks casually, "Do you have any plans today?" I almost laugh at the irony. If only she knew. But I keep my tone casual, saying, "Just a few errands. Thought I'd swing by the storage unit to drop off some stuff we don't need lying around." She doesn't even flinch. In fact, she barely listens, nodding as she scrolls through her phone. Her detachment makes it easier to carry out my plan, though a part of me still feels the sting of disappointment. I shake it off. She's not worth the regret. Once she's gone, I begin phase 2, the house itself. I start by taking photos of everything we own together. The furniture, the electronics, the artwork, even the dishes. Every item is documented and cataloged for what's to come. I know I'll have to divide the assets at some point, but with these photos, I'll have clear evidence of what was once ours. I even check on her wardrobe, making mental notes of the expensive items she's accumulated over the years. I've paid for most of it, so if she wants to play hardball, I'll be ready. But honestly, it's not about the money. It's about her feeling the weight of what she's lost, about her standing in an empty house and realizing what she's thrown away. As I pack up more of my own things, I notice small details I hadn't before, things like a hidden card from Nate tucked into one of her purses. It's short, sweet, and sickeningly romantic. The words blur as I read them, anger simmering beneath the surface. But instead of reacting, I place the card back exactly where I found it. She'll need to be the one to feel this burn. That evening, Lila returns home, her eyes slightly glazed over, probably from wine or maybe a day spent with her lover. She drapes her arms around me, but I stiffen, pulling away just enough that she notices. "What's wrong?" she asks, her voice laced with fake concern. Nothing, I reply, forcing a thin smile. Just a long day. I leave her standing there, confused, and head to bed. It's just a matter of time now, and I can feel the moment approaching when she'll finally understand what it feels like to be left with nothing. The day I've been waiting for arrives sooner than expected. It's a crisp Saturday morning, and I've already arranged to have a few moving trucks lined up at the storage unit. I double-check that everything valuable is safely stored away, ensuring that Lila won't have a clue about what's coming. She heads out that morning, mentioning some vague plans about a brunch with friends. I nod, playing the part of the dutiful husband, even helping her into her coat with a calm smile. As soon as her car disappears down the street, I get to work. I spend the next several hours with a moving team I hired on the sly. We clear out the house, focusing on everything that holds sentimental value to me. Each room slowly empties, memories and mementos packed away into the truck, ready to be taken to my storage unit. I know exactly what will hit her hardest. The small things that once defined our life together. The framed photos, my favorite armchair, the collection of rare books she always rolled her eyes at. I leave the house looking barren, stripped of every ounce of comfort I poured into it. By mid-afternoon, the place is nearly empty, the echo of our footsteps bouncing off the bare walls. I thank the movers and send them off, locking the door behind me. Standing in the empty living room, I take a moment to soak it in. It's strangely satisfying, watching the evidence of our life together vanish. Just before I leave, I place a letter on the kitchen counter. In it, I explain that I know everything. I lay it out bluntly, detailing how I discovered her affair and how long I've been preparing for this moment. I tell her that the house, the accounts, the life we built together, everything she thought she could rely on, is gone. The letter isn't cruel or spiteful. It's cold and final, a mirror to the emptiness she left me feeling. I make my way to a friend's place on the other side of town. I've already arranged to stay there while I look for something more permanent. As I settle in, my phone buzzes with notifications. Lila, calling repeatedly. I ignore each call, knowing that, at this very moment, she's walking into that empty house, reading the letter that will expose every hidden corner of her betrayal. I can almost see her standing there, the shock washing over her, realizing that the walls are closing in. And for the first time in weeks, I feel free. The calls keep coming, one after another, like a relentless assault. I watch as my phone lights up with her name, vibrating on the table in front of me. She's panicking, no doubt realizing that her safety net has vanished, that the man she thought she could keep in the dark has finally seen through every lie. I let her calls go to voicemail, each one more frantic than the last. Then come the texts, shifting from confusion to anger, and finally to desperation. Where are you? What's going on? Please, we need to talk. Each message fuels a twisted satisfaction inside me. For once, she's the one scrambling, searching for answers. I know it sounds harsh, but after everything she's done, it feels like justice. Eventually, I scroll through the voicemails she's left, just to hear her voice, to catch the cracks in her tone. The first few are calm, carefully composed, her voice masking the desperation just beneath the surface. But by the fourth voicemail, the mask slips. Jake, please pick up. I don't understand what's happening. I just got home and everything's gone. The house, our things, it's empty. Why would you do this? Please, just call me. She sounds lost, which is exactly what I want. I listen to one more voicemail, where she finally breaks down, sobbing, the weight of her choices hitting her in real time. Jake, please, let's just talk. I'm sorry. I don't know how this happened. I love you. Just give me a chance to explain. I shake my head, not even feeling the pain her words would have caused a few weeks ago. Now, her pleas feel hollow, like an echo of something that once held meaning. I've spent nights wrestling with the decision to leave, nights where I nearly talked myself out of it. But each time, the memories of her betrayal brought me back to this point. And I know, deep down, there's no going back. As the messages continue, I decide it's time to block her number. There's nothing more to say, and listening to her words is only prolonging the inevitable. I hit the block button, feeling a strange sense of relief settle over me. I sit back, watching the sunset from the window of my friend's place. For the first time in what feels like ages, I feel an odd sense of calm, as if the weight of our shattered marriage has finally lifted from my shoulders. Tomorrow, I'll start fresh, with nothing but my own life to rebuild. And for the first time, I'm ready to move on. The next few days pass in a blur of silence and newfound freedom. I still catch myself instinctively reaching for my phone, half expecting another call or text from Lila, but there's nothing. Just the quiet emptiness that comes from cutting someone out of your life completely. But it's exactly what I wanted. She has no way of reaching me now, no way to explain, to beg, or manipulate her way back into my life. I left her with nothing but the memories and regrets of what she threw away. And I know it's time to focus on what's next for me. I start looking for a new place, something small, manageable, and mine alone. It's surreal, flipping through rental listings, imagining a life where my choices no longer revolve around her. Each click through an apartment listing feels like a step toward reclaiming myself, my independence. A part of me feels like I'm 20 years younger, moving into my first bachelor pad. Except this time, I'm wiser, less naive, and completely in control of my choices. As I settle into my new routine, the reality of my situation begins to sink in. For the first time in years, I don't have to answer to anyone, explain myself, or adjust my life to accommodate someone else's whims. I can do what I want, when I want. There's a quiet joy in that, a strange, empowering thrill. I'm careful not to speak to mutual friends, not wanting to get dragged back into any rumors or emotional messes Lila might be creating. I imagine she's already spun her own version of the story, perhaps painting me as the one who walked out, the one who abandoned her. But the truth is my anchor, and I know exactly why I took the steps I did. If she can't face the reality of her actions, that's on her. A week later, as I'm finishing up some unpacking, a friend reaches out. It's Sam, an old college buddy who never really cared for Lila but tolerated her for my sake. He asks if I'm free for a drink, and I agree. I need a night out, a reminder that life goes on. Over beers, Sam listens as I give him a rundown of what happened. He shakes his head, letting out a low whistle. Man, I always thought there was something off about her, but I never wanted to say anything. Guess I should have trusted my gut. I shrug, a bitter smile tugging at the corner of my mouth. We both should have, but you can't undo what's done. We spend the rest of the night reminiscing about simpler times, laughing about our past misadventures, and slowly, I start to feel the knots of resentment and anger loosen. I don't need them anymore. They've served their purpose. What's left is a sense of clarity, a vision of my future that's entirely mine. As I head home that night, I realize something important. I'm not just surviving this betrayal. I'm beginning to thrive beyond it. The following weeks feel like a slow but steady rebirth. Each morning, I wake up without the weight of deception hanging over me, without the creeping dread of wondering what secrets are being kept. It's just me now, free to move forward however I choose. I've reconnected with a few more friends, filling my evenings with laughter and stories that don't revolve around betrayal. It feels good to be reminded of who I was before everything with Lila. One day, while grabbing coffee downtown, I spot someone I hadn't expected to see, Nate. He's sitting by the window, alone, flipping through his phone, completely unaware that I'm watching him from the other side of the cafe. The man who was part of the reason my life fell apart is sitting there, completely at ease, as if he hasn't a care in the world. Every instinct tells me to walk away, to let this chapter close without stirring the waters. But a stronger urge, one I can't quite shake, propels me forward. This man was in my life without my permission, taking something from me, and now he's about to face the consequences of that. I walk up to him, my step steady, and stop just beside his table. He looks up, his face instantly paling as he realizes who I am. For a brief second, I see panic flicker in his eyes, but he tries to mask it with a forced smile. "Jake," he says, his voice strained. "Didn't expect to see you here." I nod, keeping my tone calm but firm. "I'm sure you didn't. Thought we might have a quick chat." He shifts uncomfortably, his composure slipping. "Look, man, whatever's happened between you and Lila, it's not." I hold up a hand, stopping him mid-sentence. I don't need your excuses, Nate. This isn't about her anymore. It's about you. I just wanted you to know that I'm aware of everything. You might think you've won, but all you've done is inherit someone else's mess. He swallows hard, not daring to meet my gaze. I lean in closer, lowering my voice so only he can hear. Whatever fantasy you two built is going to unravel. I've moved on, but don't think for a second she won't pull you down eventually. She did it to me, and she'll do it to you. Nate stares at me, a mixture of shame and something else, maybe fear, etched on his face. I stand up straight, the satisfaction of having said my piece washing over me. Without waiting for his response, I turn and walk away, leaving him to mull over his choices. As I step out of the cafe, the weight of the past seems to slip off my shoulders. I'd said my piece, and it was enough. Now, I'm ready to focus on the life ahead, untethered from the mess I left behind. Leaving Nate there, rattled and speechless, feels like closing the final chapter of a book I never wanted to read in the first place. With each step, I feel lighter, like I've shaken off the last remnants of betrayal and anger. I'm ready to embrace the unknown, the freedom that comes with starting over from scratch. Back at my place, I take a moment to reflect on everything that's changed. The emptiness that once filled my days is now replaced with a cautious optimism. I can finally focus on myself without constantly looking over my shoulder, wondering what secrets are hiding in plain sight. Over the next few weeks, I throw myself into hobbies I'd left behind, things I hadn't made time for when I was married. I get back into woodworking, carving intricate designs in the evenings, losing myself in the rhythm of the craft. I spend weekends hiking, exploring trails I'd always meant to visit but never got around to. Each day feels like another piece of myself is coming back, stronger and more resilient. One Saturday, as I'm cleaning up after a hike, I notice a familiar name pop up on my phone. It's from a mutual friend, Ben, who stayed mostly neutral through the whole mess with Lila. He'd been a shoulder to lean on, never judging, just there when I needed him. The message is short but catches my attention. You might want to check out Lila's social media. She's going through something. Curiosity gets the best of me, and I pull up her profile. The first thing I see is a post, a long, emotional paragraph about loss, regret, and realizing too late what you've thrown away. She talks about making mistakes, betraying trust, and the loneliness that follows when you're left with the consequences of your actions. Reading her words, I feel a strange mixture of satisfaction and pity. It's clear she's starting to feel the full weight of her decisions, and for the first time, she can't shift the blame onto anyone else. She's facing herself in a way she never did before, and from her words, it's tearing her apart. But as I scroll, I realize there's no mention of me, no acknowledgement of the life we built or the man she betrayed. Her post is more about her own pain, her own regret, as if she's the only victim here. It solidifies what I'd known all along. Lila was never really capable of seeing past herself. I close the app, the final pangs of hurt fading into indifference. She's not my problem anymore. Her struggles, her guilt, her regret, it's all hers to carry. I'm done being the one to shoulder the burdens of her choices. Setting my phone down, I feel a peace I haven't felt in years. I'm no longer haunted by what she did or driven by a need for revenge. For the first time, I'm simply free. In the weeks that follow, I notice a shift. Each day feels clearer, lighter, as though I've stepped out of a long, dark tunnel. My life is finally my own, untouched by lies and betrayal. I start diving into projects I'd sidelined for years, pursuing things I had put on hold in my effort to build a life with Lila. Now, that life seems distant, almost like a hazy memory. I decide to renovate my new place, turning it into something that reflects who I am now. It's not just about the fresh paint or new furniture. It's about creating a space that's truly mine. Every stroke of the brush, every piece of decor I choose, feels like reclaiming parts of myself I'd forgotten. One afternoon, while picking out some shelves for my home office, I bump into someone who changes everything, a woman named Emma. She's at the hardware store, looking as lost as I am among the endless rows of tools and gadgets. We share a laugh over both being out of our depth, and before I know it, we're grabbing coffee at a nearby cafe. Emma is nothing like Lila. She's grounded, genuine, with an easy laugh and a sense of kindness that feels rare. We end up talking for hours, swapping stories about work, life, and everything in between. For the first time since my marriage ended, I feel a spark, not just of attraction, but of possibility. As the days go by, Emma and I continue seeing each other. There's no rush, no expectations, just two people enjoying each other's company. Being around her reminds me of what I'd been missing all those years with Lila, a partner who's honest, caring, and interested in building something real. One evening, while watching the sunset with Emma, she turns to me and asks a simple but powerful question. What do you want your future to look like? I pause, realizing it's a question I haven't dared to ask myself in years. But as I sit there, with Emma by my side, I know exactly what I want. A life built on trust, respect, and mutual happiness. A life where I can be myself, unafraid and free from the shadows of the past. As I answer her, a sense of peace settles over me. I don't know where things will go with Emma, but I do know that I'm ready to open my heart again, this time with a wiser, stronger perspective. This time, I'll build something that no one can take away from me. Emma and I continue to grow closer, and each day with her feels like a fresh start. She understands my past without judgment, but more importantly, she doesn't let it define us. She sees me for who I am now, and with her, I feel genuinely seen and appreciated. It's been so long since I felt this way, and I realized just how much I'd been holding back, bracing myself against more disappointment. But with Emma, I'm learning to let go of those walls. One evening, as we're cooking dinner together at her place, my phone buzzes. I glance at it, and my heart skips a beat. It's a message from Lila, the first since I blocked her number weeks ago. Somehow, she's managed to find a way through the barrier I'd put up. Against my better judgment, I open the message. Jake, I'm so sorry. I know I hurt you, more than I can probably imagine. I feel lost without you. I don't know how to make things right, but I want to try. Please, can we meet? Just once? I need closure. The words are carefully chosen, crafted to tug at the strings of the life we once shared. For a fleeting moment, memories resurface, the good times, the love we once had. But as I read her message again, I feel a familiar, exhausting ache. I realize that she isn't asking for closure. She's looking for someone to ease the guilt that's consuming her. And that's not my role anymore. Emma must notice the shift in my mood because she pauses, looking over at me. Everything okay? I smile, feeling the warmth of her gaze. Yeah, just a message from Lila. Her eyes widen slightly, but she doesn't pry. She simply nods, respecting my space, giving me the room to handle it however I see fit. And in that moment, I know what I need to do. I reply briefly, telling Lila that I've moved on and that I don't need to reopen old wounds for her sake. I wish her well, but make it clear that our chapter is closed. Hitting send feels like putting the final lock on a door I'm never going to open again. As I set my phone down, Emma touches my arm gently, her warmth grounding me. Letting go is tough, but sometimes it's the only way to really move forward. I smile, a weight lifting off my shoulders. Yeah, and for the first time, I feel like I'm really moving on. Dinner tastes better than anything I've had in years, not because of the food, but because of the freedom I feel, the sense that I'm no longer tied to a painful past. With Emma by my side, the future feels full of possibilities, and I'm ready to step into it, fully and finally free. Months pass, and each day with Emma is a reminder of how life can feel when it's built on trust, warmth, and mutual respect. Our relationship grows steadily, and for the first time in years, I feel genuinely at peace. There are no hidden agendas, no secrets lurking in the background. Just two people building something honest and real. Lila's message was the last I heard from her, and as time goes by, her presence fades, becoming just another chapter in the story of my life. Occasionally, friends mention that she's moved on as well, but it doesn't evoke anything in me anymore. She made her choices, and I've made mine. My life isn't defined by her mistakes. It's defined by the freedom I've found beyond them. Emma and I eventually decide to take a small trip together, exploring the mountains we'd both admired from afar but never truly experienced. It's on that trip, sitting around a campfire under a canopy of stars, that I realize just how far I've come. The man I was months ago, hurt, angry, lost, feels like a stranger now. I'm whole again, not because of anyone else, but because I finally chose myself. As we sit by the fire, Emma leans her head on my shoulder, and a comfortable silence falls between us. The crackling flames are the only sound, and in that quiet moment, I find a deep, fulfilling happiness. I've let go of the weight of betrayal, the need for revenge, the shadow of the past. I take a deep breath, feeling the crisp mountain air fill my lungs, and look up at the stars. This is my life now, a life I've rebuilt from the ashes of what once was. It's far from perfect, but it's real. It's mine, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. Thank you for joining me through this journey. If you've ever found yourself needing to rebuild, remember that life always has a new chapter waiting, just beyond the pain. Share your own stories of resilience below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories of strength and transformation.